we entered the Pitch to Rich competition, and then we got through to the semi-finals, and it was a huge amount of work building the momentum in that and actually getting like friends and family to vote for us in the public voting round. And so Richard actually emailed me after the campaign, because we got to the semi-finals. He just sent me an email saying, really nice to have you involved in the campaign, in the Pitch to Rich. And so I sent him an email back saying, Richard, you really need to get a Gozney oven on Necker Island. Necker won't be quite there until you get a Gozney oven in Necker. And he just sent me a message back saying, connect up with our head chef.
Today's bite-sized episode features Tom Gozney, the innovator behind Gozney, a brand that marries craftsmanship and engineering to build ovens loved by pizza makers, restaurateurs, and food lovers around the world.
Head chef just got given the green light to install one of our commercial ovens. And so, probably 6 months later, the Necker team flew me and my installers out to Necker Island, and we installed one of our commercial ovens on Turtle Beach.
Welcome to this special bite-sized episode of Screw It, Just Do It from our back catalogue of over 550 past episodes.
You mentioned Richard Branson beforehand. Is it a true story, I read that you'd been out to Necker Island? Really?
Yeah.
So
that was a week before my wedding, and so I got married in Bali in 2016, and my wife Laura was really nervous about me going, because you go out to the Caribbean and in the BVI, all the flights are really unreliable. And she was super. I had like a day's lag time to get back and get on a flight to go to Bali to get married. But it's an opportunity we just couldn't miss. And when we were leading up to the launch of Rockbox, we actually entered into the Pitch to Rich competition, which Richard does. Yeah.
Which year did you do? Was it 2015 or
2015?
Yeah.
No, was it? Yeah, no, it was 2015. And so that was the first time they'd run the Voom Pitch to Rich. And we did really well in it. Again, it was like a huge amount of work, like crowdfunding. But what that did for us is that gave us a bit of a platform to be able to show Rockbox to people. And then part of the momentum that we gained in that was just gaining customers' details and subscriptions when they gave their interest in Rockbox. And so we sort of entered the Pitch to Rich competition, and then on the back of that, we sort of used that as a stage to leverage interest for Rockbox. And we sort of had 6 months till we launched on Indiegogo. So we just started like collecting lots of details for customers that were potentially interested, which is why when we launched on Indiegogo, we just had such success with the campaign.
And was that when you spotted like the name Richard Branson and put an order in, or?
So Richard, no, actually it didn't happen like that. We entered the Pitch to Rich competition, and then we got through to the semi-finals, and we sort of, it was a huge amount of work building the momentum in that and actually getting like friends and family to vote for us in the public voting round. And so we didn't gain as many votes as the people that we're up against, but we still had an amazing journey in that process. But Richard actually emailed me after the campaign, because we got to the semi-finals. He just sent me an email saying, really nice to have you involved in the campaign, in the Pitch to Rich. And so I sent him an email back saying, Richard, you really need to get a Gozney oven on Necker Island. Necker won't be quite there until you get a Gozney oven in Necker. And he just sent me a message back saying, connect up with our head chef.
Yeah.
So he connected me to the head chef. Head chef just got given the green light to install one of our commercial ovens. And so, probably 6 months later, the Necker team flew me and my installers out to Necker Island, and we installed one of our commercial ovens on Turtle Beach, which was an amazing experience. Yeah. Really cool going to Necker Island.
Yeah, I'll have to check. My friend Ben is the DJ on Necker Island.
Oh, really?
All the jobs you could get when you're like, I think he's like 26, something
wow,
like that.
What a cool job.
And he was there when the hurricane hit.
Really?
He was in the wine cellar with Richard. He's in Richard's latest book. There's a picture of him like in the wine cellar, when they're hiding from the. So I'll have to check how the oven's doing for you.
The oven was still standing after the hurricane. It was like,
oh my God, I didn't think of that.
We got a picture from a chap called Chris Kenny, who at the time was the head chef on the island, and I think he's now the ops director of Necker. And it was amazing. He just sent me a picture. Obviously it was a complete tragedy with all the destruction that happened over there, but he sent me a picture, and the oven was just, carnage around it, and it was just stood there proud as punch. Yeah, but they are really big, heavy. But they're big, heavy bits of kit, so you wouldn't expect it to blow away.
Yeah. And did you get a couple of nights there then?
So do you know what? It was actually funny. We got invited to one of the parties, and we'd sort of flown out, and we were working, installing one of our commercial ovens. We had 3 days to install it because I was on such a tight time frame with getting back from my wedding. And so we were working in the insane heat on the beach with no shade, installing a commercial oven. So I was quite literally like absolutely knackered by the time. So we got invited to a party. I think there was a few interesting celebrities there, and we actually passed on it. We were so tired. But we had some tours around the island, and we met all the teams and went and did lunches and dinners and stuff like that. It was really cool.
It's a great story, isn't it?
Yeah, it was brilliant.
Life's all about memories, and that's one of them.
It was amazing. I was sat on the last day. I was sat on a beach on Necker Island writing my wedding speech from Necker, and it was really nice to be able to. We got the oven installed.
Were you really? Literally?
Yeah, I like literally wrote my speech for my wedding, sat on Turtle Beach on a sun lounger, just and it was one of those great moments when you can reflect and sort of absorb how far we'd come from a tiny little idea and building an oven in my garden to installing for Richard Branson and all of the achievements that we'd had. It was really, it was a great moment.
That is amazing. I'm sure there's been a few more of them since then.
Yeah, there has. We've had some great achievements. It's been a huge amount of hard work and determination, but it's been great. Yeah.
And interested to know, what was the vision back then, like when you were in your bedroom, for example, building?
So it was really funny. So the business began. It's sort of a lot more entrenched in my life than people may think. I had a relatively colourful set of teenage years, as you may have read in some of the articles.
I read that.
I won't delve into the details, but let's just say my life wasn't really in a great place, and I got booted out of school when I was young. I'm dyslexic, so I found it really hard to concentrate in classrooms, and so because of that, I just I acted up in school, and I was quite naughty, and then kicked out of school, and then I don't want to say sort of got in with the wrong crowd, but there was a group of us that were just weren't leading a very productive lifestyle as teenagers, and so my life just really wasn't going anywhere. And at the age of 21, I knew I had so much potential, and my parents were so supportive of me, and so I just decided to make a sort of massive change in my life at the age of 21 and just quit everything that I was doing. So I quit drinking at the age of 21, and which was tough. Quit partying, just completely changed everything that I was doing, and that was an amazing moment in my life. I went away to get help with that. I went to South Africa and spent 6 months in SA. Well, it's actually just shy of 7 months. I spent 7 months in rehabilitation in South Africa, and at the age of 21, and then I came back sort of highly determined to make my life a success. And it was like a really amazing journey for me back then. But coming back to the UK, being a completely different person, I've been sort of drinking heavily and partying since I was, super young, like 13, 14. And, I'd sort of, I'd like reborn as this new person that, that didn't drink and didn't do all the other stuff that I was doing. And that was a really tough transition for me back at the time. And so I had to come back and essentially learn how to conduct myself as a human, right? Without all of the stuff, because, it was all about going to the pub, hanging out with mates, going out partying, all that sort of stuff. And so coming back to the UK, it was like, well, how do I do all of that? How do I socialize with my friends when it's not sort of centered around alcohol and going out? And at the age of 21 as well, it's really when people are getting started with going out and partying.
True.
And so I just took to hosting dinner parties for my friends. I was forced to mature ahead of my time. But I started cooking for my friends, and so I'd invite friends around for dinner. So I just got really, really into cooking. And then one evening, I decided to make homemade pizzas in my kitchen at home, and I was making pizzas for a few friends and my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. And the pizzas came out of the conventional oven soggy and just, a bit underwhelming. And I was, I just immediately thought it would be really cool to be able to have a pizza oven in the garden. And so I jumped online to look at what was available in the UK market, and they were just all expensive. They were like £2,000 plus for these sort of brick ovens that you could, either buy in kit form or get a company out to build them for you. And there was only a couple of companies doing them. And so I just thought, I'm just going to build my own. And so literally the very next morning after pizzas, I said to my girlfriend, Laura, I'm going to build a pizza oven in the garden. And we weren't flush at the time. I was doing labouring for friends. I was actually installing solar panels for a friend who had a solar company. And we really didn't have any pennies to rub together at the time. And so Laura thought I was crazy that I was going to spend the little money that we had on building a hand-built brick oven in the garden. I just thought, well, I'm going to do it affordably. I'm going to build it myself. And I built the oven, and it completely transformed the way that I socialized. And as much as I was looking for ways to socialize with my friends, I built this sort of brick oven in the garden. You build a fire within it, you're sort of poking fire, cooking food next to it. And it was this primeval experience as a sort of boy in the garden, poking fire, cooking food. It was just awesome.
Yeah.
And so there was excuse the pun, there was like a fire ignited. I found something that I was really passionate about. And so my friends that were coming round and enjoying, you know, I used to make dough, they used to bring toppings, and we used to stay up in the garden till like 2-3 in the morning, just eating pizzas, messing around with the oven. Yeah. And then friends just started asking me if I could build them for them. Right. And so after like building a couple of hand-built brick ovens for friends, I just sort of saw an opportunity to try and design something that was more affordable for the UK market. Yeah. And so after doing extensive research about how ovens were designed and built, sort of little concrete igloos, I suppose they are, you know, like little traditional pizza ovens, I got a £5,000 loan from my mum and dad. I spent £2,000 of that building a mold for my first oven that I designed. It was sort of, I had no idea how to design products, but I just researched it heavily. Sort of designed an oven, spent £2,000 on building a mold that needed to be filled to cast the oven, and then another sort of £2,500 on a website, and that's how the business was born.
So I've been trying to get Tom back on the podcast for a while now, and I'll keep trying. Key takeaways from when I interviewed him back in the day: that obsession and craftsmanship can become a brand differentiator. Fear and doubt don't disappear, but you learn to move despite them. And that building a community around your product is as powerful as the product itself. Subscribe to Screw It, Just Do It for more founder stories from people who leaned in when it mattered.